Okay, now that we've confirmed our functionality is working on the API, it's time to go and deal with the client side of things. So what we'll start with, we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. So we'll start with the agent file first of all. And inside here we need to do two things really. First of all, we're going to add a new request so that we can go and log in a user. Let's just move some of this down because it's taking up too much space. And we'll add a refresh token method. And this doesn't take any parameters. And we can say requests.post. And we're just going to go to our account /refresh token. And we'll just pass up an empty object. What we'll also do in this file is we need to think about what we're going to do if the user's token has expired. Now, we really want them to be logged out, for instance. So let's go up to our interceptor and see what we're doing with the 401 at the moment. The 401 unauthorized, we haven't really done much with this at all, just sending a toast. And that toast is not ideal either, because if a user's attempting to log in and they get a bad username and password, then not only did we display the error in the form itself, which is the appropriate place to display it, but we're also displaying a toast at the same time. So we're going to fix that. And what we'll do is we'll check the header that we know we get back, the www authenticate header, and see if it starts with an invalid token text. So what we can do is we can say if the status is equal to 401 and the headers, and we'll access the www-authenticate, and we don't actually have access to our headers just now, so we'll also destructure this from our error response as well, and we'll specify headers, and we'll come back down to the 401, and we'll specify authenticate. Spelling, of course, is important here, and what we want to check to see if this starts with, and we're going to say bearer error equals, and then quote marks, an invalid underscore token. And once again, spelling is important, otherwise you won't hit what we're going to do inside here. So inside this check, what we'll do is we'll log them out. So we'll say store.userStore and log out. And we'll add the toast in here. And what we can do is just say something like session expired, please log in again. Now we're not going to have access to this header at the moment either, because this needs to specifically be exposed by the API server, otherwise we will not be able to access this inside our agent file. So what we need to do, we need to go to our application service extensions. And inside here, what we're going to do is expose a new header. So what we can do is say with exposed headers, and we're going to specify www-authenticate. And this way, our client is going to have access to this header. So if things are not working as expected, double check your spelling for the exposed headers, because we're using strings, and in the agent file, where we're doing this. And we won't do anything else with this 401, because once a user is authenticated, then their token is going to be valid for all of the areas of our application. We don't have anything that a user could not be authenticated to. And if their token is invalid, then we're going to log them out and ask them to log back in again. And when they're on the form, of course, then they're going to be getting the response directly from the server. So now we've taken care of the agent file, what we're going to do is head over to our user store. So we'll open this. And what we want to do is we want to add a new method inside here underneath we'll add it at the bottom. And we'll add a method to refresh a token. And we'll make it an async method. And inside here, what we'll do, we'll just add a try catch block and pass in an error. And we'll just log any errors we get from this. And inside the try, what we'll do is we'll say const user equals await and agent.account.refreshToken. And then we can say run in action. And we can say list.user equals user. And we didn't give our refresh token a type, so let's go back to our agent file, and where we've got our refresh token, we want to specify that we're going to get a user object back from this. And back to our user store, that error should have gone away. And what we'll also do is we'll just update the token in the store, so we'll say store.commonStore and set token and user.token. And this will update our local storage, etc. as well. But what we also want to do is check when our token is about to expire so that we can automatically go and refresh a token. So what we'll do is we'll add a method here, a private method, and we'll call it start refresh token timer. And we'll pass in a user object of type user. And what we'll do is we'll access our token. So we'll say const jwt token equals. And what we want to do is get the contents of this token, but decoded as well, because we want to check the expiry date. So we can say json.parse, and if we want to decode a token, we can use a function called atop, and we can say user.token, and we're going to split this by the period. So we'll add quotes and period, and we're interested in the payload, which is the second part of the token, so we'll specify index of 1 to access that. Then we'll add a variable called expires, and we're going to set this equal to a new date, and we're going to say jwt token.exp times 1000 to get the expiry time, and then we're going to say const timeout equals expires dot get time, and we're going to say minus date dot now minus, and we'll add 30 times 1000. So this is going to set our timeout value to 30 seconds before our token expires. Now we're using really short values just for testing, but we'd probably want to increase this to, let's say, a minute or two before the token expires. And we'd also want a slightly longer expiry of our JWT as well. But since we're working with 1 minute for our expiry, then I'm just going to check for 30 seconds before that expires, and then we're going to attempt to refresh our token. What we'll also do is we'll add a property for our refresh token timeout to the top of this file where our properties are, and we'll say refresh token timeout, and we'll just give it a type of any. And we'll scroll back down again to where our refresh token timer method is, and we'll say list.refresh token timeout equals, and we'll use the set timeout function, and then we'll call our refresh token method. This is what we're going to do when our timeout occurs, and we'll pass in timeouts. So when we get to 30 seconds prior to our token expiring, then we're going to attempt to refresh the token in the background. The user is going to be unaware of this unless they're looking at their network requests, and specify the timeout as when this should happen. And we'll also add another method to stop the refresh token timer, and we'll say clear timeouts, and we'll say list.refresh token timeouts. So what we'll do, when we have a new token, we're going to start that timer. So in our refresh token, once we have a new token, we're going to say list.start refresh token timer, and we need to pass in our user object. And we need to do this whenever we're receiving our token effectively. So what we'll do, we'll just go up to other parts of our application or our file where we're receiving a token. And we're receiving the token here. So where we've got common store set token, we'll also start our refresh token timer. And let's go up and do the same here as well for the register method. And do we want to do it for our get user? I'm going to say yes and add it in there as well. And we also need it inside our login method. And that's good. That's what we're looking for. So with this in place, what we'll take a look at next is testing this functionality in the client.